Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee meeting of August 21st. First, I would like to repeat Pembroke Land Acknowledgement Statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of the Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of the land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. Now I'll bring this meeting to order and call for approval of the agenda. Moved by Ian, seconded by, where am I here? Marcel. What? Blew it. Yeah. All in favor. Thank you. Minutes of July 24th having been presented. Can we have approval of these minutes, please? Moved by Marie Josie, seconded by Ia. Any errors or omissions to the minutes? If not, all in favor. Fine, carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business then. The first one is Z923, 794 River Road. Owen, can we have your report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant, Nico Bullert of GW Real Estate Holdings, Inc., has submitted a site plan proposing the use of the existing building at 794 River Road, commonly known as the former Commonwealth Plywood Manufacturing Plant, as a recycling depot or transfer station for electronic waste. According to the Government of Canada, electronic waste, or e-waste, includes unwanted electronic equipment such as smart devices and used cables. Additionally, the parts that make up electronics such as steel, glass, copper, aluminum, iron, plastics, and precious metals. The applicant has indicated that e-waste will be delivered to and from the facility by approximately 3 to 4 trucks per day. The e-waste will be dismantled by workers before being shredded by machinery. All operations will occur within the existing building. There will be no outdoor uses or storage, nor will there be any addition or expansion to the existing building. The applicant intends to improve the building and property immediately by installing new paneling and windows, as well as replacing the roofing. The property is currently zoned General Industrial Slope Stability, or M1-S, by the zoning bylaw. While the M1-S zoning allows for a range of industrial uses, including the previous use as a manufacturing plant, the use of recycling depot or transfer station is not permitted by default under any zoning within the City of Pembroke, and it requires a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment to permit this use. All other M1-S zone provisions, including lot, setback, parking requirements, as well as the slope stability setback requirements, are met. The proposed zoning can be viewed as compatible within the neighborhood, as well as with the proposed official plan designation. The property directly abuts a line of existing heavy industrial uses in M1 zones running north along River Road. To the west, the property abuts the Muskrat River, providing a natural buffer to the residential properties on the opposite bank of the river. To the south, along Bennett Street, is the city's mixed-use area, which contains an existing mixture of heavy industrial uses, including AIM recycling, as well as residential properties. The proposed official plan amendment would be a direct extension of this existing zone. 794 River Road is currently designated residential by the official plan 2016. According to section 4.2 of the official plan, the intent of the plan is to develop neighborhoods with a mix of housing types designed to meet a range of housing needs. The residential designation is incompatible with past uses of the property, the current zoning, as well as the proposed zoning and use, and therefore an official plan amendment is required. The proposed designation of mixed-use area can be viewed as a moderate option between the original official plan vision of the lands in question eventually being residential and between the past, current, and proposed industrial uses. The official plan defines the designation as the compatible integration of a variety of commercial, residential, and industrial uses within a single land designation. Further, it states that expansion of existing industrial uses in the area shall be permitted. As such, the proposed designation is highly in keeping with the overall direction of the official plan. The official plan further notes that industrial uses are and will continue to be a significant component of the economic base in Pembroke. The intent of the plan is to recognize existing industrial uses and to encourage the development of light and medium industrial uses classified as Class 1 and Class 2 by the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change, since these are the most compatible with the land use pattern of Pembroke. As you will see in your reports, the definitions, the MOE's definitions of Class 1, 2, and 3 industry are itemized. Based on the above definitions, the proposed use can be considered a Class 2 industry, medium industrial use. As such, under the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks Environmental Land Use Planning Guides, separation distances, a 70-meter separation distance is recommended between Class 2 uses and sensitive land uses, including residences. As shown on the attached mapping, a number of residences to the east and west of the property do fall within a 70-meter separation distance. That stated, the residences to the west are all separated from the property by the Muskrat River and its valley and vegetation, providing a significant natural buffer. And the 5 residences to the east are buffered by varying vegetation, but mainly it should be noted that of these 5 residences, only a single one of them predates the construction of the current factory in 1941. Of further note, the longtime use of said industrial building was as a plywood manufacturing plant, which would have been considered a Class 3 use. Therefore, the proposed Class 2 use can be viewed as being more compatible and an improvement in the neighborhood. The official plan goes on to state that where noise and vibration levels are or will exceed the guidelines established by the MOE, a noise and/or vibration feasibility study will be required. While the proposed use will not trigger new development on the property, to ensure conformity with all applicable law and compatibility with surrounding land uses, an environmental noise assessment report has been prepared by W. Elias and Associates Consulting Engineers. The report includes a stationary noise impact assessment regarding the machinery to be operated inside the existing building, as well as a traffic noise impact assessment. The results and recommendations of the study conclude that the highest levels, 67 decibels, occur at the east facade of the building, which is nearest and most exposed to site activities. Based on our recommendation to the owner, AP acoustic panel is installed in and around each machinery for maximum absorption of noise. The transmission loss due to the panels ranges 35 decibels in average. Therefore, the noise level from the source shall reduce to around 40 decibels, which is under 45 decibels, that is the desired level at the receiving site. According to the MOE, their provincial noise guidelines, noises are considered to be at an acceptable level between 40 and 60 decibels. As such, the Planning Department is recommending that a condition be added to the site-specific M1-11 zoning that, as per the submitted environmental noise assessment report, acoustic paneling must be installed around all applicable equipment so that any noise transmission at the facade of the building is below 45 decibels. The Provincial Policy Statement 2020 states that long-term economic prosperity should be supported by promoting the redevelopment of brownfield sites. Brownfields are defined by Section 6 of this policy as undeveloped or previously developed properties, usually, but not exclusively, former industrial or commercial properties that may be underutilized, derelict, or vacant. As the existing industrial building and property has long been underutilized, derelict, and vacant, this application is absolutely in keeping with this aim of the provincial policy statement. Further, the proposed zoning and designation would be highly in keeping with the direction regarding employment areas. Quoting the provincial policy statement, planning authorities shall protect employment areas in proximity to major goods movement facilities and corridors for employment uses that require those locations. As the existing building is a major goods facility and the property is located on River Road where it becomes Paul Martin Drive to the south, connecting directly to Highway 17, which is our most significant transportation corridor in and out of the city. This application is very much in keeping with this direction in the provincial policy statement. The Planning Department is recommending the approval of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments application for 794 River Road. from from a residential to a mixed-use area official plan designation, and from a general industrial slope stability, M1-S, to a general industrial 11 slope stability, M1-11S zone, to allow for a recycling depot or transfer station.
Thank you. Are any submissions regarding this application, Owen?
We have received a single written submission prior to the meeting from Ms. Irene Perro, who is also in the audience to speak to the application. We have also received, there are a number of individuals in the audience who wish to speak to the application.
Thank you.
Would you like to
Are there
begin?
any representatives to here that would speak on behalf of the application?
The applicant is here,
Good.
Nico Bullard, and they can come forward to speak.
Sure, please. State your name, please, and let's have it. Thank you.
Paul.
Thank you.
Paul.
Yes.
Nico. Bullard.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so we are in the business of keeping e-waste out of the landfills. And we currently, through our process, we keep 98% of, we recover 98% of the material in the e-waste. And it's a completely eco-friendly, environment-friendly process. There's no water contamination, there's no air pollution. It's completely environment-friendly. And it's also, the noise levels are reasonable. You can speak in the building without having earplugs. You can understand each other. So it's like, it's not very loud. Yes, that's what I wanted to add.
Anything further? Yes. Would you direct us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I believe Irene Perro of 115 Bell Street would like to address the committee.
If possible, we would like to ask that the delivery be 3 minutes or less, if you can, please. Okay?
I shall try, Gary.
How are you?
I'll do my best. I wish to thank you for allowing me to express my thoughts on the proposed amendment to the Official Plan 2016 and Zoning Bylaw 2020-05 of the City of Pembroke. As I expressed in my letter, my husband, Lionel, and I bought this property on the corner of Bell Street and River Road in 1971. At that time, we were told by the city, verbally, of course, that all property on the west side of River Road would become residential. We took the city at its word, which was a big mistake. There was very little traffic on both Bell and River Road. Today, the traffic is non-stop. Reminds me at times of the Queensway. I am also upset with the fact that I was told at City Hall in, I think, 2020, that all the land on the west side of River Road is grandfathered. I have difficulty because all that land on the west side is contaminated, and also the Muskrat River behind the gas tanks, the traffic of the big oil tanks idling with the exhaustive fumes in the air, the banging, clanging, and the loud noises while they load at all times of the day or night. I also wish to mention that in 2020, I sent an email to McEwen Oil about their barrels piled high along River Road at their fence. I do not know if these barrels are empty or full. I have not heard from them, surprisingly. This is an eyesore and ready for an accident to happen. I am now concerned with this electric plant taking over 794 River Road. All that land, air, and water has already been contaminated. What does this electric plant plan to do, which I just found out? How much traffic will it create, day and night, not to mention further contamination of the land and water? Eventually, further land contamination will spread to the east side of River Road. Who will clean it up? Why did Pembroke buy up land for the industrial park? At that time, everything on the west side of River Road should have been moved to the industrial park. River Road and Bell Street happens to be one of the main arteries into Pembroke. What an eyesore. I am very disappointed with the visions of Pembroke politicians. It appears that human beings are not being considered in their visions, only monetary matters. How sad. I would like to really hear what can be done for the residential residents who live on the east side of River Road. I would hope that consideration be given to the humans, not more contamination and noise, who have endured years of extra traffic, contamination and noise in a city that only has a street dividing residential and mixed use, and of course I refer to it as industrial. Lastly, I am also disappointed with the deceit that gets told. Remember, what man sows, man reaps in this life or the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would you like to hear everybody individually before we respond? Or would you like responses as after each?
I think responses as we go. Thank you. Yeah. Are there any responses from the membership, please? Ian? Yes.
Have the residents that are... No, don't restart. Have the residents that are here, have they received a copy of the full noise study to answer any of those types of questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, they have not. It would not be standard procedure to distribute that as widely as the notice went out.
Okay, because I think that very well might answer some concerns. So we do have a study, I guess they're engineers, I believe, professional engineers that have conducted a noise study, which suggests, to me at least, that the noise will not be particularly bad. Certainly it would appear to also be, in terms of the traffic and that, it appears that it will also be less than what it was when it was a plywood plant. With respect to the contamination, I know Nico spoke briefly about that. I don't know if he has anything to add with respect to the processes that are used and that there's no wastewater, there's no stuff like that going on. So I don't know if Nico has anything to add. Irene, was it the noise and the contamination?
Yes, because really, would you like to live in my area? I'll switch houses with you. You try for a while. You know,
Okay, so if it's well,
actually, residential and industrial should not be together. And all that industrial should have gone to the industrial park right from the beginning. It never should have been left where it was.
okay, but it has been there since the 1940s, is my
I know,
understanding.
But still, like in time, you would think people would realize that you're putting it in residential there. Why keep industrial beside it? It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, move it to the industrial park. All that stuff should be gone into the industrial park. It should not even be on River Road. It's an eyesore.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so...
Yes.
Through you. What you're describing here are private sector market forces. The city does not have a wand that can be waved to magically move existing uses to another area of the city. When the official plan was designated residential in 1975, that is saying that a vision of it at some point in the future that it may be residential. Again, that it still leaves it up to market forces. It's not quite as simple as you said, moving the physical uses to another area of the city. The private sector market forces play a huge role in most of what you were describing.
But again, you have all of those tanks, gas tanks there besides. That's like asking for some accident to happen.
Thank you, Irene. I think you've had your
I know
shot
I
at the
have.
cat. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the next person here to speak is Denzel Mones of 665 River Road.
Welcome,
Well, thank you
sir.
for having me and listening to me. I've lived there for 85 years of my life on River Road. 85 years. I shouldn't say that. Take 8 off. I lived up in Chamberlain Street, halfway up the block from River Road, so take that off. But 80 years. I have seen nothing but that street going downhill every year. The gas stations were fine, they didn't bother me, and they weren't as many as they are. Now, a few of them have closed down, and what did you do? You build more up. Now you're closer. The veneer plant, I don't know how come it got there, but it's been there in the 40s. I remember it being built. And I do know another thing that bothers me a lot is this stupid council or town. They've got the main road coming in off the highway now, right down River Road. It's a busy street. Sometimes his wife has to sit there 10 minutes to get out to go to work. And now you're going to bring more traffic in with this plant. Big trucks coming in and out. I don't think that's right. That's a residential street, and it should be that. And I'm very scared that the chemicals that are taken out, are you taking them out of TVs or things like that that foreign countries used to do? Is that what you do, scrapping?
Anyone wish to comment about that from the, yes?
So through you, Mr. Chair, River Road is not a residential street. It's designated a collector road under the official plan. So it should expect heavier traffic. Regarding the existing industrial uses, the fuel plants, those are an example of a Class 3 industrial use. We are downgrading to a Class 2 industrial use in the case of this application. And the uses of those other properties in the neighborhood, they are not subject, that is not the subject of this meeting. The subject of this meeting is strictly to discuss the planning rationale behind the application in question, which is for 794 River Road to reduce from its previous Class 3 use, which should also reduce the traffic. There should be far less traffic, 3 to 4 trucks per day, for this proposed use than there ever was for the Commonwealth Plywood Factory.
How are you going to reduce traffic? You're going to add traffic with that plant. You're just telling me you're adding 3 or 4 trucks a day, so you double that, that could be 8, because 3 come in and 3 go out? No, I just don't approve of it. And as for the noise, I dare any of you to trade my place for your place. I lived there for 5 years and see how you like try and get it out of your driveway and how you can put up with the noise. You people don't work with a brain, you work with a pocketbook. That's all you do. I'm not going to say no more. I've said my piece, and I think this place stinks.
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Mr. Chair, next we have Juanita Casey of 611 Moffett Street.
It's on. Hello, my name is Juanita Casey. I live 611 Moffett Street. I have a lot of questions, and I realize only 3 minutes to ask them in, so I will go through them. Number one, why were only a few residents in Pembroke given this letter, for starters? And I'm understanding that the old veneer plant, it's very close to a residential zone. I'm understanding that the old veneer plant was rezoned to a commercial and is currently rezoned to a heavy equipment zone. Where is the noise bylaw in writing? I sit on my deck at night, and the trucks coming in and out of the veneer, you can hear the banging of the back gate, bang, bang. We also get it from Bill Quinton's, the old metal place. The trucks come in there at 11:30 at night, and all you hear is metal rolling on, rolling off. where did the chemicals that were contained in the old veneer plant, where did they go to? Because it was a plywood plant. Where did they ever go to? Were they just dug a hole and buried? Where in writing is the environmental study? Where in writing is the report on the drainage system? They want to put in a recycle plant. We have a recycle plant already in town. Why not use that? Other than that, why haven't you considered, like the other person said, moving out to the industrial park? I mean, we're looking at, my property butts right onto the Muskrat, and you can tell me today that, well, no, there's going to be no chemicals, nothing like that going into the ground or into the water, but that's my wetland back there. It's animals, fish, it's everything. And it's not only the Muskrat and or the Indian River that's affected, it's the whole of the Ottawa River. So there again, I say, why didn't everybody in Pembroke, every resident, get one of those, not just a chosen few? Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So regarding the first point noted, and just to summarize this again, this is a planning application. This is not a general meeting over the state of the property. A class 3 heavy industry, a chemical manufacturing plant, could have gone right into this site without any need for a permission from the city, because that is permitted under the general industrial zoning that the property is currently zoned as. So again, we are coming down a class of use. As this is a planning application, under the Planning Act, property owners within a 120-meter radius are notified of the application. Nowhere under the Planning Act does it say that an entire city, an entire municipality needs to be notified over a planning question. On to the next point. The zoning you referred to, we do have, our first zoning bylaw was enacted in 1955. The zoning that you referred to, going back to a commercial zoning, and you referred to another one, that zoning simply does not exist. This has been a general industrial zone since the first zoning bylaw in 1955. You also stated, you referred to chemicals on the site. I don't know what direct evidence there is that there are chemicals buried on the site, but under the official plan, an environmental site assessment is triggered when there is a switch from an industrial use to a sensitive land use such as residential or even a commercial development. So if this was a rezoning application to discuss the previously industrial used land becoming an apartment block, there would be, under the official plan, environmental site assessments triggered. As the use is remaining industrial, there is no trigger for an environmental site assessment. Again, as I stated before, as to why this isn't just magicked out into the industrial park, because private sector market forces dictate a giant chunk of what was addressed there. The city does not simply have a wand to magic the uses out into the new industrial park.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and folks for coming and taking an interest in your community, particularly Mr. Mullins, who really believes that we're not doing our job. Well, I have a tendency to disagree with you. I'm here at the beck and call of the residents. I'm available at all times, day or night. I answer my calls, I return them. If there's a problem, I go and look. In all fairness, when zoning takes place, it's set up for a particular reason. And when we go back in history and we look at 1941, we're into the war years perhaps. People are coming back to look for jobs and look for work, and a plant was there. So that, I think, was a positive thing. It was there for almost 80 years, and at the time when it was there were complaints about traffic and noise, etc. But it was providing much-needed jobs within the community. And I mean, nobody wants their taxes to go up. When you look at your tax bill, everybody says, well, why is my tax bill this high? Well, part of it is you have to create an environment where you have people that can work. You attract more people to come into the community where they can have a job, where they can build a house, where they can live. So the more people you have, the less you're going to pay. And I mean, if we were to put up resistance to every business that came into Pembroke, and we're not putting up resistance, I think we're doing our due diligence. This committee is set up to look at the pros and the cons. Just because the application is being made here doesn't necessarily mean that it'll go through. But we take all those things, we weigh them. It comes before the council as a general consensus to vote on whether it is correct or not correct, or for the good of the community. What's good for the developer, what's good for the taxpayer, and what's good for all of the people that live here. And I think those are the primary things that we try and look at. And I know I bumped into a lady sitting at the back of the grocery store, and she pinned me and gave me a piece of her mind. And I mean, in all due respect, I appreciate that. I mean, that's what I'm there for. And then you said to me, well, I shouldn't have done that. No, we're here, we're elected by the taxpayer to listen. And we may not always agree with what you're thinking, but we have to make the common decision that we think is good for the entire community. I live in the west end of Pembroke, and I got noise too. I live on George Street. I got ATVs going up and down there to get to the trailhead. That's part of developing tourism, getting people into the community, getting to come into the area, to stop at the motel, stop at the hotel, spend some bucks, and maybe discovering what a beautiful community we have and buy and build a house here. And I mean, we're seeing that now. People are coming from all over, from Toronto, from Windsor. You can ask any real estate lawyer that's dealing with real estate transactions. The majority of those transactions are not people that live here or in the outlying area, not too many. They're from out of town, because they understand the value. And they understand, there was a mention about the 401. Well, if you live beside the 401, I mean, I think there's quite a there's quite a disparity between Bell Street and the 401. And yet tonight I was coming here and I said, geez, I'm going to be late. There's so much traffic on the road. Isn't that terrible that we have traffic? That means we have business, we have people, we've got motion. If there was nobody on that street, I'd be worried. So, folks, in all due diligence, and I don't know if a public meeting will be called for this particular item. Mr. Hutton, is there a public meeting?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there will be a public meeting of council on September the 5th.
Thank you. Anyway, just to address some of those concerns, and listen, I'm not only a councillor, I live here too. I'm a taxpayer. When I open my tax bill, I don't say, well, I got some extra money here to offset that. I'm getting the hit too, to pay for all the amenities and all the services. For the water plant, there's an $80 million water plant in this community where you have the best water in the province of Ontario. Nobody ever says, well, we don't want real clean water as long as our taxes are low. You want to be healthy. And the environmental issues that you have talked about are truly a concern not only to you as residents, but to us as councillors as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Michael McLaren of 102 Ellis Avenue. He may not be present. So I believe, does anybody else wish to speak? So I believe we've run through members of the public who wish to speak. No.
Good, thank you. Where am I here? Any comments from their membership, please? Yes, Jose.
I would like to speak on this issue. I understand the concerns from the residents in the area, but as Owen has stated, these are market forces at play. Would I like to see another type of project coming in? Yes, I would. Is there someone else with a project for this property? No. So the choice here tonight is between letting this property just run down or have some use and get some revenue for the city, which is needed. I understand that I'm speaking to the money here, but I also am sensitive to the fact that this is a downgrading in intensity in use, and to me that's significant. It's a direction of change. I would like to know, however, what the hours of operation are planned for the facility, because the noise is something that we need to be concerned about. I'm pleased to see that there's been a noise impact study done and that some remediation is planned already. To me, that speaks to diligence. And, but I do want to know what the hours of operation will be for the plant.
7 to 3:20.
7 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
3:20.
Okay, so like daytime.
Yeah, daytime. just
Daytime. Okay. Now, I do have a question for the city staff. Under this zoning, it means that there's no active use in the evening and at night permitted. Is that a correct understanding on my part?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, the site-specific zoning does not speak to the hours of operation of the plant.
Okay. So if operations were to expand beyond these hours, there would be, like, it would be included in the current usage permitted?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you to the proponents of the project. Are you the same people that have the operation in Manitoba?
Yes.
Have you encountered any difficulties in that operation in Manitoba?
Yeah, please, yeah.
No, we have now 12 years in Manitoba operation. We have no complaints
Okay,
from the peoples. They're very close to on our operation. And we work not with chemical. We work with dry separation. It's not dangerous. And what Nico said, we do 100% recyclable stuff coming in. It's 97, 98 go again back to new product. 2% going to the landfill.
so what you're saying is good for the environment overall?
It's
That the
100
residents won't have a concern about toxicity or something going
No.
into the water, the land?
no
Okay.
problems.
How many people will you employ in this plant?
Yeah, we got 40 people now in Manitoba.
And what you,
So the same here, maybe.
that answers my
Yeah,
question. Thank you.
depends how much material we have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Owen? Yes, Ian, please.
So I think generally, at this point in time, I'm going to be in favor of approving this further, but I do want to state why. So as Mr. Hutton pointed out a few times in answer to the responses, but I don't know if it might have been fully received. So in the Planning Act, which is the provincial legislation that governs zoning and planning issues, there is a legal concept called legal nonconforming, which basically means that when a property was legally being used and any municipality changes the zoning, so if you have a residential house and then someone changes the zoning or the official plan later down the road to, let's say, commercial, and in this particular case, we had an industry where in 1971, Owen?
75, if you're referring to the official plan.
1975, there was a change to say we hope in the future this area will be used as residential. So you're perfectly correct to sit there today and believe that this, under the official plan, was made residential in 1975. That's true. But under the legal non-conforming laws in the Planning Act, what the province has said is anytime there's a property that's being used legally and then there's a change, it gets to continue to be used despite any such change. So in my example where you have the residential house that the municipality later zones as commercial, you can keep using that as a residence, you can sell it as a residence, the next person can use it as a residence. It can continue to be used per provincial law until it sometimes gets changed in the future. So I think it was Marie-José that brought up that you know, if somebody wanted to bring in, or, you know, another industrial plant tomorrow, they could without any changes, so, you know, if somebody wanted to reopen the sawmill and the plywood plant, they could have done that without ever coming back to council, because that's what the property was used for, and it can continue to be used that way until there's an actual change in property use. I'm satisfied from the reports that we have, and the fact that there was a noise report, that this will be likely better than what it was when it was the Commonwealth plywood plant. And that's largely where my support is coming from, is my belief that this is a small step in a better direction than what the property can actually be used as today, which, like I said, a plywood plant could buy this building tomorrow and resume operations just as they were 20 years ago. So in some ways, while this may on the surface not be as good as having a vacant building, I can tell you, and perhaps, you know, Councillor Jacquinot's been on council a lot longer than me, but having this big eyesore of an empty building has also been a concern to many residents in the city of Pembroke. And I have received, not with respect to this particular matter, but I have received a number of complaints about how we're just letting a derelict building go on what is our main arteries into town. So I know, for instance, the busted out windows in that plan on getting replaced. My understanding from the report is some work on the front facade and that is planned. So in some ways, they're also going to be bettering the visual presence of this property, which I also think has a positive effect on the local residential community. Certainly nobody, you know, if you're trying to sell your house, you don't want to be next door to a dilapidated, caving in factory either. So my reasoning for supporting this, and it's a good thing I'm at an end because the computer is restarting now against my wishes. So my reasoning for supporting this is because I do think it is actually a step forward from what the property is currently used, could currently be used for. I think the noise, I think, will be addressed pursuant to the noise study. I can also tell you that three of us, Mr. Mantha, the chair, and myself, if you're wondering how much we care about this, I asked for a site visit. And Nico, they had us down there on Friday so that we could see where the placement of the machines are inside, the setup of the windows that are going to be closed off. So we thought this one to be important enough that we actually went out and physically went to the property, which is not something that we always do. So again, is this a perfect setup? Did somebody have the right mind to them in the 1940s when they put industry right next to a river? Well, you know, there's a lot of things we don't do anymore that they did do in the 1940s. Certainly, would I approve this? You know, would I approve building this on George Street or William Street, where Councillor Jack and I live today? Of course, we wouldn't put this where it is today, and certainly I would hope that we wouldn't be putting it next to what could have otherwise been even more beautiful waterfront here in the city of Pembroke. But it is there. By provincial law, it can continue to be used as industrial. So we're actually, in some ways, we're making a change that's for a little better. And I think there'll be a small step of positivity in it, but it obviously will not be a full fix for the whole situation. And I'll leave my comments at that, but I'm always, like Councillor Jacquinot said, I'm always available to talk one-on-one with anybody, and I would like to think that Nico and the factory workers too are open to talking with people, and you know, if maybe there's some tweaks that can be made in the future, maybe there's you know, some additional sound buffering or whatnot. I would hope that the owners would be open to this being an ongoing dialogue with community residents, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ian. Marcel?
Mr. Chair, I also had the opportunity of visiting the plant, and I'm quite pleased with what I heard and what I saw. The fact that it's going to be cleaned up and the facade made much more beautiful. River Road is a catchment area into Pembroke. It is a busy road, but at the same time, you're driving by that building and you're seeing a dilapidated mess. Now we'll drive by and see a nice structure, which will be quite good, you know, for the community and for us. Couple of things. I think as far as the processing is concerned, going from M3 to M2 is a good move. It's going to satisfy, I think, a lot of concerns from the public. I also want the committee to know that I met with Mr. Levasseur and we discussed the proposal at length. And Mr. Levasseur asked me to pass his comments to the committee that he fully supported the application. Based on what I have and what I've heard, Mr. Chair, I would move that we accept the recommendation to propose with the rezoning on River Road.
Do we have a seconder? Marie-José. Any further comments? Yes, we will let, there's a lady that wants to speak.
Thank you.
Can we have that?
I
Yes.
have a thought. I'm not actually here because of this situation. This is all new to me. But I do have a thought. If they've already got a factory or whatever, a business going that's doing exactly the same thing, perhaps if a person knew the name of their business that's in Manitoba, people could look it up on the World Wide Web and learn a little bit about it, and it could calm their fears. So if they would share that, it could
Thank
be an
you.
idea.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe Councillor Jackno actually noted the name of this business. But Councillor, would you like to say it again?
I looked it up some time ago, so it's not fresh in my mind.
Nico, would you mind? Exner E-Waste. EXNER.
So we have a motion on the floor. Any further comments? If not, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And again, for those who have come out, thank you very much for coming and at least being able to express your opinion. We do appreciate that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a note to the public that again, a public meeting of council will be occurring on September the 5th. That is, as in the title, it is open to the public.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sorry.
A clarification from one of the requests from a lady at the back. Why didn't everyone receive a letter? Can you expound on that?
Yeah, we did, I think.
Did you already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within so many feet of the property?
Yeah.
Yes, under the Planning Act, it's 120 meter radius of the property in question.
I just wanted to reinforce that. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Okay.
With regards to the noise, like I said, I sit on my deck at night, and the noise is horrendous. At what point, now they're saying from 7 to 3:20, but if the noise exceeds that, what avenues do we have? Yeah, where can we go? Where can we complain to? Do we call the cops every time there's a noise complaint? Because the noise is horrendous.
You say the noise there already is horrendous?
It has been ever since this thing with.
Wow, well, there's nothing we can do about that, really, when you think
But I mean,
about
you
it.
can at 11:20 at night. You're sitting on your deck at 11:20 at night.
We're
and
going to
all
stop
you
the
hear is-
street then at 11 at night?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, but are we going to say no more traffic at 11 o'clock at
It's not
night?
the traffic that's the noise. It's the trucks. All you hear is the.
trucks, we have no trucks now there,
No.
nothing there, nothing is in operation.
Well, if
It's
the
maybe
noise.
the neighbors.
It's
You
not the
don't
neighbors.
have trucks, no
It's
coming
not-
trucks.
it's not the neighbors.
Anyway, we all had an opportunity to express our opinion, and there has been a motion to accept, and it has been passed, so I think we're through with this at the moment. Thank you. Can you want to inform them what will happen here? Do we do that? Yeah. Okay, good, thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is Z7 2023 0 Blakely Crescent, Burcom Develop.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to do this report. So the owner of Burcom Developments, through their consultant, Michael Smith Planning Consultants, they've requested to redesignate a 3-acre piece of land from industrial to residential and to create a plan of subdivision to create 9 lots for single detached dwellings. The applicant is also proposing to rezone parcels A and parcels B, which I believe you have on your maps, to allow for a reduced lot area, lot frontage, and lot depth for some of the lots within the proposed subdivision. The red line revisions for parcel A are required to ensure there's a functional connection between parcels A and parcels B. Parcel A has already received draft plan approval for the plan of subdivision. And if you'll remember, in November of 2022, the province passed the More Homes Built Faster Act, and one of the changes of Bill 23 is that the draft plans of subdivision are now no longer required to host a public meeting prior to draft plan approval. The city is requiring 2 public meetings to deal with the rezoning, the official plan amendment, and the red line revisions that are being proposed tonight. The official plan designates this 3-acre parcel of land as industrial, and the intent is to change the industrial to residential. The intent of the residential designation is to develop neighborhoods with a mix of housing types designed to meet a range of housing needs. Residential design principles will be used to ensure compatibility between houses. In this neighborhood, there's an existing residential development on the north side and on the south side of Blakely Crescent, and there's a mixture of single-story bungalows and 1.5-story residential uses. The proposed residential development would not exceed a maximum height of 35 feet, which is the maximum permitted for a single detached dwelling house. The official plan also encourages infill, and the official plan also states that the city shall encourage all forms of residential intensification that create a potential supply of new housing. The proposed use of 9 lots would meet the intensification criteria for a piece that is previously landlocked. So without it merging with the parcel A, this parcel B would be landlocked. A parcel B is also located within close proximity to schools, places of worship, senior citizens housing, and commercial uses. Parcel B is bounded to the north and east by existing industrial uses, such as a warehouse, a professional painter's establishment, Eastway Collision, and a restaurant. It is being recommended as a condition of draft approval that a privacy fence be erected along the rear lot lines that are adjacent to the industrially zoned lands. The official plan also supports residential infill as long as it's compatible. And it has, and it also supports that the setbacks are met, which it does. It also minimizes adverse parking and traffic impacts. A traffic study has been done, and the states the existing road network is satisfactory in this area. We're also looking at the retention and preservation of significant trees and other natural vegetation. And the retention of remaining vegetation on the lot would be reviewed during the subdivision agreement process. We're also ensuring that it maintains adequate light, view, and privacy for residents on adjacent properties. And as part of the conditions of draft approval for parcel B, a fence would be required, like I said earlier, along the rear lot lines, which would be along the north and east sides, abutting the existing warehouse development and Eastway construction building. Further, on the lots that are down at the southern part of the property that are along the Algonquin Trail, there would be a buffer along there to provide privacy between the rear yards and the Algonquin Trail. The present zoning of 0 Blakely Crescent is R2- holding, but there's a need to rezone it to an R2-35 zone as well as an open space zone. So the R2-35 zone would permit reduced standards for lot area, lot depth, and lot frontage. So instead of 5,000 square feet for lot area, it would be 4,838.7 square feet. lot depth instead of 100 feet, it would be 98.4 feet. And for lot frontage, instead of 50 feet, it would be 46 feet. And just so that you're aware, not all, it's just a few of these lots that cannot meet these. Most of the lots that are already created meet the lot area, lot depth, and lot frontage requirements. The parking can be met on each lot. The open space zone would be a park, a stormwater, 2 stormwater management ponds, and 2 open space lands. And that zone should be changed to reflect the actual use of these lands. So the proposed red line revisions are for future development and changes the block numbers for the park, stormwater management ponds, and open space lands. So the red line revisions for parcel A are required to ensure, like I said, that there's a functional connection between parcel A and parcel B. So the lots north of Street A and surrounding parcel B are redesigned to allow access to parcel B. And the result of this red line revision is the loss of 1 lot in parcel A. Presently, the lots that are part of the red line changes are being rezoned to an R2-35, again, which would have the reduced lot area, lot frontage, and lot depth. As per the draft plan approval, the approval of the 9 lots is provided based on conditions, and a copy of the conditions of draft plan approval are attached. And they are combined with parcel A with the conditions of draft approval for parcel A. Planning Act states that if the planning department feels the proposed changes are minor, then there'd be such as there's no adjustment to the residential zone boundaries are necessary, so this would be considered minor. There's a loss of only 1 residential lot as a result of the red line measures, so this was also considered minor. The proposal also meets the intent of the provincial policy statement in that it promotes efficient development, it promotes the integration of land use planning, it promotes intensification in infrastructure planning to achieve cost-effective development patterns, and ensures the necessary infrastructure and public service facilities are or will be available to meet current and projected needs. A natural heritage assessment has been completed for the property, and there were no significant natural heritage features on the property. A stage 2 archaeological assessment report was completed, and there are no archaeological resources encountered during this stage 2 report. A functional servicing and stormwater management plan was reviewed and approved by city staff. As I mentioned earlier, a traffic impact study was completed and indicates that a capacity analysis shows that regardless of traffic distribution, there is plenty of spare capacity to accommodate future traffic volumes on the road network. All intersections possess spare traffic capacity. Traffic generated by this subdivision and the adjacent subdivision in the township of Laurentian Valley can be handled by the proposed network. The study does provide 2 recommendations: that a new signal line at the intersection will eventually be required to service the development of Pembroke Street West and Irene Street, which is an intersection located within the township of Laurentian Valley. And the intersection of Pembroke Street West and Crandall should be changed to a semi-actuated intersection with additional pedestrian push buttons and detector loops on Crandall. So that means traffic is detected through sensors with these lights, and then the traffic light would change if traffic is detected on Blakely Crescent or on Crandall, and if no traffic is detected, then the light remains red and it remains green for the traffic on Pembroke Street. Parkland is provided on the property. There would be a total of 1.96 acres of, there would be a park and open space. The city has requested comments from various bodies, public bodies, including school boards, Ottawa River Power Corporation, Ottawa Power Generation, Enbridge, Township of Laurentian Valley, and Ministry of Municipal Affairs. We received comments from Bell saying they have no objections, but the owners to contact Bell just before development. And Enbridge Gas, again, they had no objections, but it's the responsibility of the applicant to contact Enbridge to determine gas availability. So the planning department is recommending the rezoning, the official plan amendment, and the red line revisions along with draft plan approval.
Thank you. Have we received any submissions regarding the application?
We received a letter today, and we have Randy Brunetti here also. Do you want me to read the letter, Randy, or do you want? Sure, if you want, yeah. Okay. So, Drevcon Holdings, owner of the property located at 1300 Blakely Crescent and bordering to the north of subject parcel B of the proposed zoning amendment, file OPA 7-2023, is submitting this letter as our response to the notice. Drevcon Holdings is not opposed to the proposed rezoning, but notes that our property is zoned M1-2 and is used for industrial, commercial purposes, and as the town is aware, we have other development planned for our property. We are concerned with the compatibility of the proposed rezoning of parcel B to residential directly bordering on our property. Our property can be active from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 6 days a week and can include moving of equipment that can be noisy and includes backup alarms. We would like to suggest a green space or similar right-of-way be designated between the lots to reduce potential disruption from our property on the proposed residences. We are also concerned if the primary access to this property would be from the road allowance bordering our properties to the west. This could be a significant increase in traffic flow in this area that would not be compatible with the industrial commercial traffic coming and going from our property. We would ask that you notify us of the outcome of this proposed amendment. Regards, Dean Drevena, President. I don't know if I said that right. But.
Thank you. Any comments from committee members? Seeing none.
Oh, did you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr.
Okay.
Bernard,
Do you want a further comment? Certainly. Yes, please.
Yeah, not much to add. I mean, the letter, I think, speaks where our concerns are. Just with our use of the property, we do have transport truck plan routing around our building, so they'll be right close to the property line. So we just don't want to create a problem in the future with noise off of our operations that could affect the residences. So just want to bring it to the attention of the committee and make sure it's considered in the planning. Like we mentioned in our letter, if there's a way to put a green space back there somewhere to provide some offset, there are existing trees through that area. If they can be maintained and possibly enhanced, it would help, reduce the noise. As a contractor, we do often get complaints regarding the biggest thing is backup alarms on trucks and tailgates slamming shut. Shouldn't be many tailgates banging on our job site, but definitely backup alarms are very common on our facility there. So I know that we have a forklift there now, and often we're there at early in the morning moving things around, and that noise is pretty piercing. So anyways, just want to make sure that we're planning it properly there. So.
Colleen, did you want to reply?
I would like to reply, but we also have Gord Mahoney on, and Gord is acting as representing the applicant. So there, Gord, if you wanted to say your presentation.
Please.
Oh, thank you. As Colleen had said, my name is Gord Mahoney. I'm a senior planner with Michael Smith Planning Consultants. The staff have done an excellent job of reviewing the applications that were submitted, the proposed changes. I don't want to rehash that information. The committee's has heard it. I do want to thank the owner from 1300 Blakely Crescent for raising those comments and concerns. I have done similar developments where they back onto industrial or maybe a noisy commercial site. There are ways that we can try to address the matter. They can be done through draft plan conditions, potentially landscaping, potentially berms and landscaping, potentially noise attenuation fencing, things of that nature. So I think we'll leave it maybe at that. We'll consider this through the rest of the process and maybe determine with staff what's the appropriate steps for looking at those matters. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Through you, I guess in the same vein as what Mr. Mahoney is talking about, we do in the draft conditions have that there would be a fence. So we can look at it being, if you recommend a noise attenuation fence, we could have a little bit of a buffer, like a 5-meter buffer, which would be about 16 feet. And then there could be trees planted in that buffer, or if the trees are retained that are existing in that area. So we can add that a condition to our draft conditions to ensure that there is some kind of, compatibility, I guess, between the existing industrial use and the proposed residential use.
Okay. So, is it a motion to accept, or what are we doing here?
Yep.
Okay.
Unless there's
Can
any
we have a
questions.
motion to accept the, Ian? Seconded by Councillor Giacono. Oh, sorry.
I think he has a comment.
Oh, yes,
Well,
sorry,
we can-
sorry.
we can- No, we can get the
Sorry,
motion.
okay.
We can get the motion on the floor first.
Yeah, okay, now comments, yes, yes.
So the only thing that I'm going to say, I'm not going to be opposed to this. I did raise some questions with both our planners, and it's only that I think that to a degree, I think going forward in the future, I think the city and at some point I do want to sit down with Councillor Giacono, who of course is chair of the planning committee, and with our planners. We do have a limited amount of space left in the city of Pembroke. I mean, it's growing smaller. I mean, I'm happy it's growing smaller because it means it's being used. But I think we also need to, because of the place that we're at now, I think we also need to be very careful about how we proceed forward and how we use what land we have available. So I didn't say anything in the last council meeting because that subdivision had already, long before I ever arrived, it was pretty much pre-approved. But that one behind the mall, were to have some apartment buildings, that would have been a great location. So as much as I love single detached dwellings, and they are needed, I think there's sort of a twofold approach going on. We also desperately need some apartments that are affordable. So I think going forward, it's going to be my position that when I'm looking at some of these proposals, and perhaps after speaking with other councillors or whatnot as a matter of policy, that I think we should be also looking for more apartment buildings, and I guess those are some R4s, if I'm getting a slight nod from the other side. So I don't have a problem with this, and like I said, I'm certainly not going to jump in at what is basically the very end of the process and raise any kind of hell or whatnot. But I do think going forward, we do need to look very strategically, and the developer might not like to hear this, but perhaps not just do what they want, but look at a more global picture of what we need, as in addition to what they want to build. So that's going to be my only comment, and I raise it now because it's sort of a semi good time to raise it, but I do have some concerns about making sure that we open up our offerings. But I will be supporting this.
Any further comments? All in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you very much. Which leads, Ian, to Z823, 224 Hink Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant, Andrew Plummer, has submitted a site plan proposing the construction of a 20-unit apartment building at his property of 224 Hink Street. The property is currently vacant land. The previous building, a dry cleaning facility, was demolished in 2016 due to a fire. The property is currently zoned Central Commercial, C3 by the zoning bylaw, and while this zoning allows for dwelling units above and below ground floor non-residential uses, an apartment dwelling, so an apartment building, is not a permitted use, and therefore a zoning bylaw amendment is required. The proposed site-specific residential type 4-36 zoning is required to permit an apartment dwelling, as well as to provide site-specific relief for the items that are listed in your report. Additional site-specific relief is also required for the proposed dwelling unit sizes. The zoning bylaw requires a minimum dwelling unit area of 400 square feet for bachelor dwelling units. The proposal consists of 20 bachelor dwelling units, of which 12 would be 240 square feet and 8 would be 370 square feet. So relief for this would be incorporated into the site-specific R4-36 zoning. And as one of the applicant's primary aims for the development is to be able to meet the province's forthcoming definition and regulation of affordable rental units. These reduced dwelling unit sizes can be viewed favorably in support of this aim. A final item of site-specific relief is required for the proposed parking configuration. The zoning bylaw requires 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Therefore, 30 parking spaces would be the standard requirement for an apartment building of 20 dwelling units. This application is proposing 14 parking spaces. A parking study in support of the application has been undertaken by Lee Consulting Limited. The study indicates that as the nature of the proposed development is intended to provide more affordable housing units geared towards students, seniors, and individuals living on social assistance, given the smaller unit sizes and predominantly studio units proposed, as well as the site's close proximity to Algonquin College and Pembroke City Centre, it is expected that the parking demand on site will be less than would otherwise be expected for a typical apartment use. The study's assessment includes parking surveys completed for 3 proxy sites within the city of Pembroke. The planning department concurs with this assessment and recommends that the required relief be incorporated into the site-specific zoning. The proposed zoning is highly compatible in the neighborhood, which has a diverse mixture of zoning and uses. To the north is largely central commercial C3 zoning, which includes the permitted uses of dwelling units above commercial uses. To the southeast and west is largely residential type 2 zoning, itself a mixture of single detached dwellings, converted dwellings, duplexes, triplexes, and quadruplexes, many of which may be considered legal nonconforming due to their age, and along with commercial and institutional zoning also occurring. Most significantly, directly across the roadway from the property is 231 Hink Street, itself recently the subject of an approved official plan and zoning bylaw amendments to allow for the conversion of the existing mixed-use building to a fully residential 9-unit apartment building. The Province of Ontario's More Homes Built Faster Act received royal assent on November 28, 2022. Accurate to its name, one of the primary goals of the Act is to increase the housing supply in the province by building 1.5 million homes over 10 years. The Act also aims to significantly increase the supply of affordable housing and to facilitate more timely approvals. This application is directly in line with the intent of the Act as it proposes to add a significant amount of affordable dwelling units to the City of Pembroke's housing stock, and this developer intends to act quickly upon approvals and has a record of acting quickly upon approvals. The property is currently designated central commercial by the official plan. This classification of land means the predominant use of land in areas so designated shall be for the buying and selling of goods and services. As such, while the past use as a dry cleaning facility met this intent, the proposed apartment building requires an official plan amendment as well. The proposed residential designation under the official plan would support the full use of the property as an apartment building. In the official plan, the City of Pembroke will encourage all forms of residential intensification that creates a supply of new housing units. Infill redevelopment and the conversion of existing buildings are to be encouraged. So this application is strongly in keeping with this direction in the official plan, as the proposed apartment building constructed on vacant land will contribute to new housing stock in an already built-up area. Regarding intensification compatibility criteria, the official plan says that compatibility refers to development that fits with the character of the neighborhood. It does not mean that the development looks the same as the neighboring development, rather that the housing form is similar in size, scale, and massing. The proposed apartment building will only be 2 stories, keeping it in line with surrounding buildings, most of which are 2 or 3 stories. The reduced setbacks can be viewed as compatible and in line with the majority of others in the neighborhood, most of which, including on Hink Street itself, as well as its intersection with Renfrew and Isabella Streets, have minimal to no setbacks due to their original construction dates. The official plan aims to promote efficient and pleasant residential environments through neighborhoods that shall include facilities such as a school, park, local shopping facilities, community center, a library. The property is located within 1 kilometer of Algonquin College, along with 4 grade schools, Waterfront Park, the Algonquin Trail, Kiwanis Trail, Riverside Park, Rotary Park, and Pansy Patch Park, downtown Pembroke, the PMC, and Pembroke Public Library. The area is also supportive of the official plan's aims for pedestrianization and the safe movement of pedestrians. There are sidewalks constructed to appropriate municipal standards on generally two sides of the road in that neighborhood. The property, the official plan further states that all residential development shall be adequately serviced, and the requirement for a site plan agreement and a building permit for this proposed development will trigger the approval of the operations department to ensure adequate servicing capacity. The provincial policy statement states that long-term economic prosperity should be supported by the redevelopment of brownfield sites, as I defined in my last report. As this property has long been vacant and, was long a vacant and derelict commercial building and is now vacant and derelict land, this application is strongly in keeping with the aim of redeveloping brownfield sites. The provincial policy statement further states that land use patterns within settlement areas shall be based on a range of uses and opportunities for intensification and redevelopment. As well, that planning authorities shall provide for an appropriate range and mix of housing options to meet projected market-based and affordable housing needs. This application strongly promotes redevelopment and the provision of affordable housing in compact form by providing a new apartment building of 20 affordable dwelling units on currently vacant land. The Planning Department is therefore recommending the approval of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 224 Hink Street from a central commercial official plan designation to a residential official plan designation, and from a central commercial C3 zone to a residential type 4, 36 special exception zone. And the application is in keeping with the intents of the zoning bylaw, official plan, and provincial policy statement.
Thank you. Have any submissions been received regarding the application?
A single informational inquiry was received prior to the meeting, but I do believe we have a member of the public here.
Could we have you here to speak, please? Thank you.
All right.
State your name, please, and?
My name is Heidi Doyle, and I'm from Isabella Street.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And anyways, I just came because I received this one paper in the letter and in the mail, and I just had some questions because I know the lot and it mentions 20 units, so I thought, wow, they will be very small. He did end up mentioning there the square footage of each unit approximately, and I didn't quite catch the number. 100, what was that? I just wanted to make note of that.
Through you,
Yes,
Mr.
you would,
Chair.
please.
How much?
So 12 of the units would be 240 square feet,
Okay, 240, that's 12,
and 8 of the units would be 370 square feet.
370 square feet, okay. And then the person who's trying to do this, his name is Plummer?
Yes.
What's the first name?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Andrew Plummer.
Andrew, okay, Andrew. Isn't he the one who does the boats or something? I don't know. Okay.
Yes, I think. I don't know.
So anyways, so he's got this idea. Obviously, there's not going to be any kind of room for, like you had mentioned about location for parking and so on. So they're fairly small units. What kind of people is it that they're expecting in there? You had mentioned students, seniors, something else. Do they know? We're just kind of wondering what kind of people are going to be there, because, you know, those kind of people are going to be then in our neighborhood.
So, yeah, planning doesn't speak to demographics. Like when we're doing zoning, we don't people zone. So we can't, I mean, the aim is for it to be affordable, but beyond that, we can't really speak to.
So nothing is planned as regards to, so it's not in a sense just going to be for like young people on maybe, I don't know, ODSP who have drug problems and all this kind of stuff? That's just the only thing that we were a little bit concerned about, that perhaps it may end up being like, kind of like a drug addict building.
So, again, as this is a planning meeting, we can't speak to the demographics that would be, like the zoning does not refer to generally, unless it's a student residence or a retirement home. That's generally as deep as planning gets into the demographics of people.
He never had to say like what kind of people he's hoping to be able to have in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. I think you have some valid concerns, obviously, with, there is drug abuse in various sectors of the community, not only here, but right across the country.
Absolutely.
But I think based on the previous performance of that developer, I don't think we've encountered problems in any of his buildings that I know of, where there's been, I think the individual is quite, how would I put it? He's quite serious as to who he rents to. And I mean, that's up to the landlord. Obviously, it would be very, very discriminatory on all of our parts, including yours, to say, well, you can't have somebody in there on ODSP. There's certain people that are reaching out that need a place to live. So who am I to tell them they can't live there if they have the wherewithal to pay the rent and it's handicapped accessible?
Yeah.
So I mean, certainly you want people like that to have a space.
Absolutely.
So when you say people like that, I think you're referring to good people in general rather than bad people, but
I was just referring to, there are certain locations and it just attracts the drug addicts.
Well, that, madam, becomes
And
a
that-
police matter and not a matter for council to say, we can't
it's
say.
a police matter, but
we can't say
the
who's going.
the neighborhood
Yeah.
ends up
Yeah.
having to live and deal with that on a daily basis.
I
And
understand
that's-
that.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah, I
what's a little
understand
bit of
your
a
sensitivity,
concern.
but my sensitivity is that people need a place to live.
Mm-hmm.
And when I make the decision, it'll be based on that. And hopefully that the landlord who is going to be renting will still have the common decency to say, you know what, I want to have this for people and respect the wishes of the neighbors around him. And I think that individual probably does that, but I can't speak for him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, so you said, yes, he does this, I guess, at other locations. What other places does he have that a person could kind of compare it to? A little bit like that gentleman there who's wanting to do this recycling thing. He's got a place in Manitoba. If a person checks into that, they may end up finding out that, oh, it's really not such a bad thing. So this Andrew Plummer, then, if he's wanting to do this, and he has already a good record, and the person kind of can check into the type of place he's already renting to people, and a person says, yeah, it's pretty well run.
Well, madam,
You know?
I think through the chair that,
Yes.
if you're concerned with that you should call him and talk to him, and I'm sure he may be, go ahead, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair. As it's available in the public roll book, this is public information, the developer has developed a site at 901 River Road, which was also vacant, a vacant brownfield site, 901 River Road, 23 Bennett Street, 759 Mary Street, and...
Okay, hold it. Bennett and 59.
Sorry, so it was 23 Bennett and 759 Mary Street.
Okay.
And these developments were also geared, they may have been geared to be more on the affordable side.
Okay.
And I think if you visit them, you'll see that they're quite cleanly upkept. And
okay.
they may be modest, but
That's
they're,
encouraging to hear.
yeah, they're positive additions to the neighborhoods they're in.
Okay, that's encouraging to hear.
Okay,
All right, that was more or less all.
good. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have, yes, Ian, do you want to,
So I think from my perspective, I had slightly different issues, but I think they've all been resolved. So one of my concerns was the parking, but Mr. Hutton was kind enough to send me the parking study, and then I also requested a map of what street parking was available in my head, presumably for visitors and whatnot. And there's ample, actually, street parking available in the neighborhood. One question I did have was from operations about the water supply and whatnot. And Mr. Hutton had indicated he might try and get back to me on that one today.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So yes, the operations department did respond, and they have no concerns in that area regarding servicing.
And the reason for that one is while I was on the campaign trail, I was on Melton Street, and I guess when that large apartment building at Melton and Angus Campbell came online, I guess there were some of the residents did notice a rather abrupt concern to their water pressure and whatnot that I think took some remediation works to accomplish. So generally speaking, I'm in favor of this. As I said earlier, I think we do need to, I mean, apartment rents in Pembroke right now are sometimes approaching those in the larger cities. It's astronomical what some people are being asked to pay for a simple 2-bedroom for a small family or something. So I do think we could use a significant number of new apartments to be added to our roster. I mean that Angus Campbell, that apartment building filled up almost immediately. It was and those are not particularly cheap units, but it filled up almost immediately. So I think it's great to be adding this many units to the city's roster. I'm in full agreement that its proximity to downtown and schools or whatnot would make it a good location for people without vehicles. And ma'am, in terms of your concerns, I think although we don't speak to it directly, we certainly take it seriously. There's right now I'm dealing with a number of residents who have concerns about their neighborhoods, and it's not their neighborhoods. It's often one bad apple house in their neighborhood.
And it can affect.
It can affect things. It absolutely can. I mean, right now, one on Alfred Street is causing significant concerns to people. But I think at the end of the day, I think in Mr. Plummer, certainly you have somebody that when you're renting, you want to receive your rent. So I think I think we can be assured that when Mr. Plummer is screening his potential tenants, like all landlords, he's screening them to make sure that they're going to be people that are not going to wreck his building and that they're going to pay their rent, and so I think we can be assured of ourselves that you know, the type of tenant on screening is going to be someone that he has confidence in as a tenant of his building, and that he trusts giving a key to go inside of his building for. So we certainly can't dictate who can and can't rent there. But I think most landlords, although sometimes you end up with a bad tenant, certainly on your screening, you're hoping for the best just for your own building and for your own rent collection. So I think Mr. Plummer is becoming quite skilled in that, is what I will say, given the number of units and properties that he has been involved in. I think you know, no guarantees are being made, but I think he wants a good tenant just as much as any neighbor does as well.
Thank you, Ian. Any further comments? There's a motion on the floor, is there not?
No.
Or has, okay. Somebody make the motion, Ian, that we accept, and seconded by Marcel. Any further comments? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much, by the way, for being here.
Mr. Chair, before we close, I just have a question that of
Yes.
interest.
Yes,
The government announced today, the provincial government announced today, I can't remember how many billions they're going to give to the municipalities who reach their goal in putting in new affordable housing or housing. I just wonder, do we have any idea, Colleen, what our goal is?
We received it.
A pile of
More than
money.
achieved it, yeah.
Yeah, I could try and find out from the
Yeah.
government what they anticipate, what they would expect from us to be able to apply for some of that grant. Yeah.
I know one municipality was looking at receiving like $80 million or so.
Ooh.
Can we make our goal 19 units and cut the ribbon on this?
There you go, there, we've got the 20 now.
Make our goal 25 units and away we go.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to note that, like the other applications, this will be going to a public meeting of council next.
Yes.
So you are welcome to attend that as well.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you very
Okay.
much. I do have it in the letter, so,
Great, thank you.
good, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay, past decision update. Owen, are you going to give us that, or good for you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At our last committee meeting of July 24th, we heard 3 applications. First, we heard a set of 3 applications for 947 Lee Street, a consent to sever, as well as 2 minor variances. These applications have passed their 20-day appeal period successfully, and the provisional consent and 2 minor variances are considered final. We heard a package of official plan and zoning bylaw amendments initiated by the city, as well as a zoning bylaw amendment for 201 Pembroke Street West. Both of these proceeded to a public meeting of council on August 8th, 2023. Bylaws will be before council at their meeting of September 5th.
Thank you. Then, now, the suggestion for our next meeting is Monday, September the 25th, 23. Is that sort of good for everyone? Good for you? Good for you?
Me too.
You too? Okay, good. Okay, motion to adjourn. Ian? Marcel? All in favor? That's all she wrote.
Everyone likes the dust.